Good evening, and thank you to the task force and to Ray Carey for inviting me to address you this evening. As you've heard, I've been on the job now for 6 months as President and General Counsel of MALDEF. This is a tremendous opportunity for me and the culmination of my career as a civil rights lawyer. And in these 6 months, I've had occasion to give a number of presentations. I can, with accuracy, say that in my first 6 months, this is the largest and most energized indoor crowd that I have had that great pleasure of addressing. Now, for those of you who don't know much about MALDEF, we are an organization that was founded 42 years ago, just a few miles, several miles south of here in San Antonio, Texas. So we view Texas as home. Welcome to Texas. Our organization was founded by prominent Latino lawyers and other community leaders when they recognized the need for an ongoing civil rights champion in the legal system and in the court system. As our main founder, Pete Tijerina, tells the story, he was a lawyer with a strong case on behalf of a severely injured Latina woman. He was going up against a corporation with deep roots in Texas. He believed that she was entitled to a substantial settlement, a substantial resolution of her case. But he also realized that in Texas at the time, the mid-1960s, she would not get the kind of recovery to which she was entitled because at the time, no Latinos were allowed to serve on juries in Texas courts. So he made an impassioned argument, and a judge, listening to his argument, committed that after a period of time, if Pete Tijerina would return with his client, that judge, working with the jury commissioner, would solve the problem. He returned after the given period of time to find that they had identified exactly 2 potential Mexican-American jurors, one of whom was deceased, the other of whom was a non-citizen and therefore ineligible to serve. As he tells the story, he was required, because of this development, to settle the case for a sum substantially below what he believed his client was entitled to. He then took on the prospect of creating an organization modeled on the NAACP Legal Defense Fund for the Mexican-American and Latino community throughout the United States. And here we are 42 years later, still going strong. We do our work in litigation and public policy advocacy in the areas of education, employment, immigrants' rights, and voting rights. As we begin 2010 at MALDEF and in the Latino community, like in the LGBT community, we see a decade of great opportunity and great challenge. Among the most important of both opportunities and challenges for the Latino community is the prospect, after having been on our national agenda for 10 years, of finally moving toward comprehensive immigration reform. Of course, as you all know, a legalization program that would recognize and acknowledge the significant contributions of millions to our society, to our economy, to our polity, by millions who have labored in the shadows without full legal protections. The centerpiece of comprehensive reform would be to acknowledge and recognize those contributions through a path to citizenship and legal status. In a moment, I'll talk more about comprehensive immigration reform. But I think it's also important to tell you that a critical part of MALDEF's heritage and history and ongoing philosophy is collaboration and partnership with other communities. MALDEF has a long history of supporting the struggles of the LGBT community for full, fair, and equal treatment in American society. It has been one of my goals as the new President and General Counsel to deepen our collaboration and partnership with the LGBT community. Now, you all know, as I do, that there are uninformed pundits who opine freely that our two communities, based on their superficial sociological analysis, will not work together, cannot work together, because of their views about the philosophy, religion, and beliefs in the Latino community. And it is certainly true that there is as much bias and bigotry in the Latino community as in any other. But the superficial sociology that those pundits rely upon is deeply flawed. There is great commonality of interest, belief, and goal between our communities. Beginning with the fact that, of course, our two communities overlap in significant respects. And I am very gratified to see here in Texas so many of my Latino and Latina brothers and sisters present at the Creating Change conference. Latinos have been our nation's largest minority group for nearly 10 years, and that means that we are also a large and growing component of the strong LGBT community in this country. At MALDEF, and as you've heard through our recruitment practices, we have always prided ourselves on including within our staff high-level Latino and Latina members of the LGBT community. Tonight, I want to acknowledge two of them, one a current member of my staff and one a former member of MALDEF staff. First, the first person that I hired upon returning to MALDEF as President and General Counsel, someone who's a longtime friend, who I've worked with in my previous tenure at MALDEF, someone whom I appointed as my Director of Communications and Strategic Initiatives, is here with me attending this conference. A proud, out, gay Latino, David Damian Figueroa, is here in the audience. David Damian will be here throughout most of this weekend, and I hope you will get a chance to speak with him. The former member of MALDEF staff that I must mention is a former leader, head of our Washington, D.C. office, Marisa Demio. The reason I want to acknowledge Marisa is that she was appointed by the Obama administration to a seat on the District of Columbia Superior Court. But she has been awaiting confirmation since a favorable vote out of the committee in May of last year. News stories say no one can explain why Marisa's appointment is being held up. Well, let's see. She's an extremely intelligent, civil rights-minded, out Latina lesbian. I wonder why they refuse to confirm her.